Hi, this is Michael James Bigham, servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. I want to talk to you guys about some new innovations, some things that I've thought about that could help um, drivers, that could help with drunk driving, that could help identify the person and also identify the toxicity level of alcohol or drugs in a person's system when they get into their vehicle, something that would prevent them from driving and causing accidents. Now, in a sense, if a person is not intoxicated, but they're really not paying attention, this would also help them being able to stop their vehicle with one approach that is already out there that you could use to connect AI to that person's thoughts as a way to prevent them from hitting a vehicle, or um, basically it would allow them to automatically stop their vehicle. In this case, if the sensors recognize that there's someone in front of them. Now, I'm going to get into the topic of my idea. I want to apply AI standard ignition. That means there are two things a person must get rid of, or a company must get rid of, when they're manufacturing their vehicles. They must get rid of the idea of a key. They must get rid of the idea of a key ignition and a push button start to be able to start that person's vehicle. Now, when you have a global identification through a chip implant in the forehead and the neck, you're basically going to use this technology, which is an RFID wireless chip, to be able to read the person's brain ID, brain identification. Now, what is a brain identification? What is a brain ID? A brain ID is the ability to map the fiber structure of the brain, to be able to recognize key pinpoints of the fiber structure, much like a fingerprint. Now, what you're going to be going to do is you're going to connect your brain ID through these chip implants in the neck and in the front of the forehead, simply underneath the skin of the front of the forehead. You're going to implant these chips, which also measures the toxicity of alcohol in a person's body, even in other drugs, such as marijuana or any drug that a person has taken. Now, AI, through the dashboard, which is a panel where your digital radio, your digital touchscreen radio is normally placed, there's going to be a button on that digital keypad that you press. When you tap that icon or that button, that digital button, it's going to pause on starting your car. It's going to do the measurements by connecting wirelessly to your brain ID chip, your RFID chips. It's going to measure the alcohol toxicity to see if there's any alcohol or marijuana or anything like that in your system. But it's also going to validate your brain ID. That means that's the ownership that you have of that vehicle. It's going to check your insurance to make sure you have insurance. It's going to check all your personal information that identifies you with that vehicle. So basically, you're not going to be able to steal anyone's vehicle. Secondly, before you get in the vehicle, there's going to be a chip implant in your right hand, an RFID chip. This RFID chip is going to be able to open your car door. It's going to be able to unlock your car. That's the only purpose that it has for it. It also allows the insurance to be read as well before you get in the vehicle. So you can't even get in the vehicle unless that chip validates through the internet, through a wireless cellular satellite SIM card signal to the satellite, giving you permission to unlock that vehicle even though it belongs to you. You got to have insurance. Okay, you got to have insurance to be able to unlock your vehicle, or you won't be able to get in. Now, once you're in the vehicle and it validates all that information, it's going to allow the car to start. That means there's going to be an automatic AI standard ignition. That means that you're no longer giving the person the ability to use a key to start their car without validating that that car belongs to them through their brain ID, through not being intoxicated, and through being able to validate they have insurance. Now, when it comes to being able to drive without being intoxicated, if you're not really paying attention to the road, and say a person is listening to music, or they're having a conversation on the phone, well, that's where that wireless connection, that sensor connection, connects to the dashboard of AI as far as the distance to see if you're going so fast that something is coming at you or you're coming at something without paying attention. Well, that sensor will be able to stop the vehicle and the brakes of the vehicle, and that's where you're going to add that idea that has already been out there for quite some time to AI's dashboard. Now, this dashboard also is for the radio, it's also for your music, it's also for GPS, but that GPS will also validate where you are, the location of where you are, and it also helps give an estimate of what kind of driver you are, so that you don't actually lose points on your record. If you're a good driver, it gives you a good validation. It gives you a good standard, but it also helps Google and AI understand what is actually happening on the road, what needs to be prevented, how many times you haven't been paying attention. It actually does this so it helps you recognize to pay attention. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it keeps track of how many times you don't pay attention. Because every time that AI has to hit the brakes, it starts to recognize what kind of driver you are. If your attention and focus is not on the road, if it's on something else, yes, it protects you from hitting somebody else, but it also collects data, collects cognitive data. So it's not necessarily like you're going to get away with drunk driving in this case. It's not necessarily that you're going to hurt someone because you're not paying attention. All these little methods that are built into your car, into your vehicle, are meant to protect you and others from being hit, hurt, or end up in the hospital, or caused, or because of your lack of paying attention, causing them to be hit by a vehicle. So that is the basic idea, the basic concept that I came up with. I kind of like to look at difficult situations and difficult scenarios, and I kind of like to think of what is the technology we already have out there. What can we use that we already have by combining all of these methods to create a permanent solution to prevent these things from happening, from children from being hit by cars, from homeless people being hit by cars, from other cars hitting other cars due to being drunk, having an intoxication in their mind and being drunk. There's a lot of these people out there haven't really thought, well, we have all this technology, but we're not utilizing it as a combined method. And I think a lot of that is because some of the patents, some of the concepts belong to different people, but they're not coming together as one united form to say, look, let's resolve the issue by combining all these methods. Let's work together. Let's work together as a team, even though there's different companies creating these different products, these different methods. Let's get together, all companies all together, and work on the solution as a whole, rather than just saying, I have these patents and I don't want to share these patents with any other company because I'm making money off of my own idea. Well, that's where these problems and issues tend to not really be resolved, because there's other companies and other people in other companies that have thought of methods to use, but they're not really working together as a whole. And I wanted to talk to you guys about that today. I wanted to talk to you about unifying these companies, bringing everything together, working as a team, grasping what can be done, and not looking at it as, oh, there's nothing that can be done about this. There's no solution. There's no real solution. And that's not the actual truth. There is a solution. It's just you must combine all these methods to solve it on a permanent scale. So, Brain ID is the way to go when it comes to being able to measure the toxicity levels of a person. Now, how would you measure the toxicity levels of a person using this technology, using the chip implant in the neck and in the forehead? It's very, very, very simple. Very, very simple. Basically, it basically measures the nervous system from the back of the neck to the front of the brain. And it also does this by brain imaging. It maps the structure of your brain by sending a signal from the back of the brain to the front of the brain. That's why there's two separate chips. You need two separate chips to be able to correlate with each other, to be able to read each other, be able to feed off of each other, be able to connect one to the next. And what this does is it creates a color format image of the brain. So what that does is when a person's intoxicated, it will pick up different colors. Those colors give an indication of toxicity and how the brain's affected by the alcohol or the drugs. But if the color is basically blue and there's no coloring in different areas where the brain is affected by these chemicals, then that person's car would start. So AI understands that based upon a color format of toxicity. So that is basically how the idea works. Basically what you're doing is you're sending a pulse, a wireless signal through the nervous system from the chip in the neck. It sends it up through the nervous system to the front of the brain, which the chip in the front of the forehead sends a signal back. So it's like going back and forth, reading like a scanner, but yet through the central nervous system. So that is actually how it works. This is Michael James Bigham. You all have a wonderful day. God bless you. Out.